Good morning, Westminster Bible Chapel. Thank you so much for having Nightshift here today. I brought a colleague with me, Rod, and I'm really honored to be able to share about Nightshift and what God is doing. But I was instantly blessed when I came in this building because I heard our foundational scripture being read, which is from Matthew 25. I may read it again if you all are okay with that. Yeah. And I also heard that you have a cold weather shelter here. Way to go. That is wonderful when we are, following Christ's example to care for people with, in many ways, immediate physical needs, spiritual needs, emotional needs. It makes a difference. So I'm going to show a little video, has a couple of friends of mine from Nightshift talking about what we do. I'll share a little bit of our history, a story, and then Rod can share a little bit more about what we do. But Rod noted that you are in need of socks. Guess what? The Lord has blessed Nightshift abundantly with socks, and we will be, Rod, by we, I mean Rod, will be bringing socks to you all to share with your community in need. Yeah. Actually, we have some really cool socks. They're stuffed, so the students from Regent Christian Academy in Surrey, every year they purchase socks, and then they stuff them with toothbrush, maybe a snack, comb, maybe some soap, deodorant. Yeah, so they're quite fantastic little socks, and we'll bring those by. If we could play the first video, please.
Hi, I'm Christian.
And I'm Summer.
Since 2015, homelessness in Surrey has soared by 65%. Today, there are well over 1,000 people in Surrey without a place to call their own. And that's not including the countless who are living in poverty and are vulnerably housed. That's why Nightshift Street Ministries exists, to reach out to our neighbors in some of life's most difficult circumstances. We offer a hot meal, basic health care, a welcoming community, resources, access to recovery, and most of all, love and hope.
At Nightshift, we believe every person is made in the image of God. Each one has the potential to grow and grab onto a full life. If this sounds like something you would like to be a part of, there are lots of opportunities to get involved at Nightshift. You can volunteer with us, give financially, and of course, you can pray. Give us a call at the Nightshift office weekdays until 5 p.m. 604-953-1114. We'd love to have you join the Nightshift neighborhood.
That number just for support in what you're doing already here. We would love to share resources and pray together. Curious if anybody knows how Nightshift started. Oh, 2 people at the back. Okay, amazing. Did you read our founder's book? Yeah. And you know, okay, wonderful. Well, for the rest of you, I'm going to share in a nutshell how we started. So it was 2004, about this time of year, and a really brutal snowstorm had hit all of Metro Vancouver. We were all buried under snow and wind and very freezing temperatures. And the lady who would go on to found Nightshift, Marianne Connor, had noticed how many people were on the street. And in Surrey in 2004, there wasn't a lot of services for people experiencing homelessness, addiction, mental health challenges. So there was a lot of people just trying to survive outside. Now Marianne at the time, she was a real estate marketer, and business for her was booming. And she was getting ready to go to a conference in Las Vegas to share with other people how they could market real estate and make tons of money. but there was something kind of missing in her life. So she was at home that weekend of the snowstorm and tossing and turning, really had a sleepless night because suddenly she was overwhelmed with concern for people who were sleeping outside. And so she began a conversation with God, where she was like, where are they going to sleep tonight? Lord, where are they going to sleep? And then she said, somebody should do something. And then probably there was an uncomfortable silence where she went, oh, maybe that somebody is me. So the next day, on a Sunday, she went out to the Whalley neighborhood of Surrey where there was a little street church. And at the end of the service, she went to the lead pastor and said, you know, you really should open your doors and let people come in and sleep inside during this storm. And he said, okay, I will, under one condition. You are responsible. And he dropped the keys into her hand. So at this point, Marianne, who we all call Mac, so if you hear us referring to Mac, it's Marianne's nickname. She took the keys, and as she would share with you, if she were here today, she says hello. She's on her way to Mexico for a well-deserved retreat. Yeah, if she were here today, she would tell you that she was terrified. She had no intention of being the hands and feet. She thought she was just going to be the messenger. And we do have messengers in this world, and that's an important role, but Mac was being called to do more. She was afraid to get, she'd always supported kind of other Christian outreach ministries, but she'd never done the work herself. And so she was afraid to be near people who were addicted, homeless, maybe didn't smell very good, quite rough. She phoned up some friends and said, hey, can you come and help me do this? And that night they gathered at the Gentle Shepherd Church, opened the doors. They had no way of telling people that they were there, but people came. And just like that little network of word of mouth out there, folks who were struggling in the cold came, and they rolled out mats and blankets and just began to be with people, make coffee, make peanut butter sandwiches. I like to say that Mac, one woman, probably, she made the first peanut butter sandwich, and 22 years later, Nightshift has served well over 800,000 hot meals to people in need. And Mac would be the first one to say, not me, it's him. But we are called to partner with what God would have us do. And so I like to say to her, no, I think you need to accept that you've done well, and by partnering with God. So today, well, maybe I'll just back up a little bit. So what do you think happened to Mac's business? Well, it's certainly not what's funding Nightshift. She shut her business down and knew that she had to change course in order to follow what God had for her. So that's a pretty huge thing, to shut down a very successful business and go full-time into ministry. For the first while of Nightshift, we kept our food items in her garage. And a lot of her colleagues in the business world thought she was crazy, that she had just temporarily lost her mind and that she would come back. But she didn't. And in fact, a lot of those folks who were like, oh, what happened to Mac, are today financial supporters of Nightshift. So from the home building world, they were called to support. Nightshift, we did get evicted from the Gentle Shepherd Church, but not by the pastor. It was by the city of Surrey. At that time, it was hard for politicians and business leaders to understand that helping people in need was not creating more people in need, right? There's this idea that we don't want to look at maybe what some of the issues are in our cities, and so they didn't want to bring it to the fore. So we were kicked out of Gentle Shepherd Church because there was no license to run a shelter there. That's not what the building was designated and zoned for. So for a little while, Nightshift itself was homeless. But the determination of people to follow the Lord in caring for those in need, early volunteers would just roll up in a park in Surrey and start serving from the back of their cars. This too was shut down. Of course, Fraser Health, which we're under in Surrey, there are regulations about how you can serve hot food. And so MAC followed those regulations. We got Fraser Health approved. We got a registered charity number. So all the things were put in place. Today, we have a home on King George Boulevard near 106th. And the outreach meal, so that remains like a hot meal is part of who we are. We will always serve a hot meal. So 365 nights a year in Surrey and 4 nights a week in Langley, people come to us and we share a meal. From that first connecting point, there's opportunity to pray with people. And maybe you found that here at your shelter. I'm always surprised when you ask somebody in need if you can pray, more often than not, the person says yes. And we don't know if they're believers, but something tells me that they're ready because they're asking for prayer. We also have daytime programs. So knowing that, okay, we've nourished the body, provided clothing, socks, a meal, what is the more? At Nightshift, we always ask, is there more, Lord? Is there more that we can do? And so we have now recovery programs. We have 2 different recovery programs. One is for people who are seeking abstinence. So they're not using any substances at all, and they're working through some of the pains in their hearts. And then we have another program that people can come to even if they're still using alcohol or substances. And the reason that we do this is because we know the Lord didn't ask us to clean up before offering us help. It is come as you are. So we're providing hope to people who are maybe still in broken cycles. It's always, I think, what we do at Nightshift is messy. And we know what Jesus does with a mess. He turns it into a message. And I see so many stories at Nightshift of God's love. So I'm going to share one with you. We'll play one more little video, and then Rod is going to share. There's a woman at Nightshift. Most people know her at Nightshift. She had gone through, years before Nightshift, she had gone through addiction, a broken heart, even periods of homelessness. She had lost touch with her family and just really was in a desperate situation. And then she encountered a group of Christian people who rallied around her, cheered her on, shared that Jesus loved her, that there was a hope and a future for her. And this group of people would pray with her, invite her over for meals, and something miraculous happened in her life. She quit using. She reconciled with her family. She got married. something she never thought was going to be in the cards for her. And just fell really in love with the two stepkids that came with that marriage. And then she went on to reach out to other people who were struggling like she once was. And today, I'm really delighted to tell you that she is the executive director at Nightshift. She's me. Surprise! Yeah, and what I think, what I saw when I came to Nightshift and when I met Mac was that same community of love, hope, and purpose that I had encountered at in a different setting, in a church. But I knew just coming alongside people with love, sharing the gospel in action and words if we need them, can really change lives. And we don't come to Nightshift expecting change from people. We come to Nightshift and just love, and then people feel the freedom to start making their own decisions. And God really moves in that when people feel free to make a change, not forced to make a change. So thank you so much for having us today. Would you mind playing, we'll skip video number 2, but we'll go to video number 3.
It's David at Nightshift Kitchen, cooking soups for one. I'll cook for the recovery room. Duties at the square away. The best part of my day is to welcome center the community. We play cards, we talk, we share stories. I'll be able to let people share my own story, my own experience, and what worked for me, help others. To depression, I ended up in addiction myself. 6 in darkness and addiction. Luckily, I met a person who took me to leave. I believe God with him, and if I hadn't have met him, I don't know where I would be now. At night, shift the ability to be that person for someone else. After your dream, I mainly wanted to be a purpose, and working at Nightshift has given me that ability. I really feel like Nightshift healing the community. It's a light in the darkness area, and having a place like Nightshift is crucial. I record healing for the city, shining God's light into this area.
Hardest workers, right, Rod? Yeah, and so another story of a life transformed through Christ. Yeah. So introducing Rod, he is, as I said, our kitchen and warehouse manager, and which basically means he makes the whole place tick.
I don't know about that, but I'll share a bit about how I came to Nightshift. In 2010, my wife passed away, and I was just brokenhearted. Searched for a while. I'd been a Christian. We had been Christians for, I was going to say, usually I'm speaking to a younger audience, but I can't say before you were born, because some of you guys are probably... Anyways, so, I was trying to escape the pain, and I ended up moving to New Brunswick, and but I found out that God lives in New Brunswick too, and you can't run from God because He's everywhere. Anyways, I just felt I had to come back to BC, and I did. I came back to BC, and I was introduced to this program called Freedom Session, and they just really helped me walk through the pain and the trauma that I had in my youth that I never dealt with. But and it was just a freeing experience that I had through that program, and And their emphasis was on giving back at the end of the course. And so I did. I was living in Wally at the time, and I thought, well, there's two organizations there that I could work with. But I felt God leading me to Nightshift, and this was back in 2012. So I had been a long time volunteer at Nightshift, and then I was also a painter. I was an industrial painter for years, and then I worked for Delta School District for probably the last 15 years of my career. And so when I retired there, Max said, you're not retiring. You're going to come and work for us, because they did need, the guy who was doing it before me was getting ready to leave. And so I joined Nightshift as a staff person. But I want to share with you just a bit of the journey, and what keeps me going is, and there's all kinds of stories I could tell you about people, Danae, Barbie, Carr, other people like that we got to know over the years. And but I'll just share a bit about my story there. So I was probably about 4 years into volunteering at Nightshift. My night is Friday nights, and I often say to people, what better thing can you do on a Friday night than volunteer at Nightshift? But and I went out on other nights too. I just I love doing what I do. So, and but anyways, this one particular night, it was wet and cold, and I guess I had had a rough day at work, and and feeling pretty miserable about everything, in a grumpy mood. I don't know if you guys ever get in that way, but I was in a grumpy mood, and just wondering, what in the heck am I doing here, and I don't know if you guys believe in angels, but I do. And so I'm walking out the door. I got this big bucket, pot of soup, and I'm carrying it down to where we serve. And out of the crowd stepped this young man whose face just glowed. And he grabbed me by the arm, and it was just like being grabbed in a vice. I couldn't shake it. And I'm not a weak person. And so anyways, he looked at me right in the face, and he said, "Do you know why you're here?" And I mumbled something under my breath. I said, "Yeah, I suppose you're going to tell me." And then I went to turn away, but he still had my arm. And he said, and I'm holding this big pot of soup, and I'm about ready to drop it and hit the guy. But that would have been a big mistake. But anyways, he just got a hold of my arm, and he kind of pulls me back, and he says, looks at me again, and he says, "Do you know why you're here?" And I mumbled again, "Yeah, I suppose you're going to tell me." And he says, and then he looked at me again, and he said, "You're here to keep people alive until they can meet Jesus." And then he let me go. And I went down, I gave the soup to the people, and I turned around, and he was gone. And I asked people, "Did you see that guy?" And nobody seen him. I guess I was the only one that saw him. And I didn't think about it much after that, but I went home that night in the quiet, and I just wept. And so that's what keeps me going. And I've been doing it for a long time, and just so thankful that I can be a part of it. But, we see, sometimes it's hard. We do see people die. We see people, slip back into addiction. We know that, people didn't get this way overnight, and they're not, most of us don't change it overnight. I said to Carrie one time, I said, we're all in recovery. Doesn't matter whether we've been Christians 50 years or what. We're all in recovery. God is recovering us all, taking us through various steps in our lives. So we're all in recovery at various stages. And sometimes we go around the mountain a few times. But we see good things happening, and that's what keeps us going. And we're always thankful to God.
That wasn't a hint. I just love bringing Rod with me to speaking events, because I see how the Holy Spirit just kind of overcomes him, and you can't help but weep sometimes at God's goodness. It's pretty awesome. In closing, I just want to invite all of you to come by Nightshift, visit us. We can pray for one another, share support. If you want to get involved, we'd love to have you. If there's ways that we can help you here, we would love to do that. But I'm gonna read the Matthew 25 scripture again, because why not? I think it's pretty amazing that as I walked in, it was being read, and that is awesome. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Oh, now I lost my spot. Oh, then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you a drink? When did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? And the king will answer them, truly, I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you did it to me. Thank you.